Natalie coming to you live. Spreading coffee. Got my coffee here. And I tried this seasonal blend of coffee. It is peppermint something. It's pretty good. I kind of like it. It's pretty good. Okay, let's see here. I am going to let's see here. Turn this on. Make sure we know who's on here live. Okay. Oh God, tell me the volume is working.
I am going to.
Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Okay, good morning. So, lots of stuff going on. I finally feel like I'm organized in my life. So, if you're feeling like you're disorganized and everything's piling up on you, and you're like, how do I maintain or manage? Like I told you, I hired my niece as my personal assistant, and she's really helped me get my life back on track because I had all this stuff going on. Um, and that's been super helpful. So if you guys are feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you can't get your what you need to get done, like goals and all that stuff, reach out to me. That's what I do. I support people in finding ways to free up their time so that they're able to do the things that they want to do. And that way they're creating the things that they want to create and all of the good stuff. So please reach out to me if you need support. So I've been reading the Healing Through Dark Emotions. It's the Healing Through Dark Emotions and the Dark Emotions Alchemy. I can't remember. Miriam Greenspan, I think is the name. Anywho, in the book, she's talking about grief. And grief is the loss of something, the loss of an individual, the loss of a person, the loss of your job, the loss of anything. So we go through grief in different ways, in different forms. And the loss of another human being. And so I'm reading this, and I've had a lot of loss in my life, which has really been the reason why I have been able to really have some empathy and compassion at a deeper level with individuals. When you lose somebody that you truly love, and I'm not saying that you're not losing people that, that you don't truly love, but I mean someone that you're really, really close to, like father, mother, child, lover, even a friend, I could say, uncle, family, whatever it is, a person that is super close to you, maybe someone that you talk to every day and you lose them, and all of a sudden it's gone. And there's this thing inside of us that grieves, right? It's the sadness, it's the pain that surfaces up. And right now, I think we're on high alert because of the pandemic. So people are freaking out, right? They don't want to lose people they love. And that's kind of why the mindset has gone crazy, right? So that's why you have these different mindsets. People are like, well, have respect for those who are older because we don't want them to. So there's this fear around death, basically. We don't want to lose them, or people are afraid that they're going to get sick and that they may perish. And this grief, this idea of grief, like, I don't want to lose this person. If you've ever been through it, it is it is the worst thing that you can go through in your life. And it's because it's permanent. It doesn't come back. It's not like a person can come back. So when an individual is completely lost, that feels like it's severed, right? At least in the physical world. So I've had my fair share. I lost my high school sweetheart when I was like 23, 24. We were together for 8 years. So we were very young when we started dating. And we didn't know better. When you just like meet someone and it's that innocent love and you're just like hanging out and you're just together all the time and it's innocent and sweet and you love this person, but you don't really know, you haven't really been in a relationship, so you don't really understand it. And it was crazy too. I mean, relationships bring out a lot of your subconscious craziness as well. And when you're a kid and things are a mess, and I was a mess, right? I was all over the place, but we loved each other and we had this great bond. And it was, we were living together at the time. And then we were separating. Things were going in a different direction, but it was hard because we were the kind of people who would come back together, we'd leave, come back together, because we just could, it's like we couldn't live without each other, right? We just felt this strong, compelled feeling to be together. And perhaps you've had those relationships in the past. But there was never resolution, right? And so he passed away. And it was awful because, well, it was a big mess. There was more to the story. I'm not going to go into it, but I'll just say that I lost him. That was the worst situation I'd ever been through. And the loss of the individual was hard because it was like, now what? I went crazy. I literally went crazy. I mean, to the point where, first of all, I never smoked in my life. I don't even like smoking. I work in tobacco prevention, but I started smoking. I mean, this is a natural occurrence, right? You start to smoke or you do some crazy things. So if you lose somebody that's close to you, if you're going through the grieving process, this happens, right? You go through these like weird sort of emotions that you've never felt before. And it's really because of our connection to death. Like, is it final? Where do we go? Can I continue to talk to this person? Are they part of my life? Can they hear me? What if I had more things to say? How do I say it to them? And so there's this disconnect, right? And it's this deep sadness. And there's no way to get it back, right? No way to get that person back, no way to restore. If you didn't say the things that you wanted to say, well, you don't have a chance to do that. So everything starts to sort of like a wave of stuff. So in the book, The Spiritual Alchemy, I love it because it's like our grief allows us to blossom. It allows us to remember that things are impermanent here, that the ego is what tries to hold on to life. It's the ego trying to hold on. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Is there anything wrong with the word ego? No, because people get this wrong idea about what ego is, right? Ego is the function of this dimensional time space. It's what wants to survive and keep us alive. So in a way, ego can serve its purpose to help us live a fruitful life, right? Stay away from danger, that kind of stuff, because it wants to survive. But it's a battle with the ego. And that was a big aha moment when I was reading this book. I'm like going, wow, it's like the battle to stay alive. It's battling. And then it has to surrender to the fact that we do pass on and that this body isn't permanent. And the surrender is the hard part because the ego wants to survive, to cling on to that material, right? To the body. We're permanent in like spirit. At least that's from, what I believe. And that could be ego, but really we become the potential, the energy. We go back in, we cycle, we become the circle of life where we end up cycling back in, right? Into the earth and out. And so this cycle of life, of death and rebirth, but the ego itself has to understand that it is not permanent. And that's what's fighting, is the ego. And then once we surrender to it and we realize, yeah, that's a part of life. This thing that we don't talk about, it's like the elephant in the room that no one's going to talk about until it actually happens, right? Until someone actually passes on and people say, well, I don't want to talk about it. No, it's not to stay stuck in it, but to really be honest with yourself that this is part of life. And that the ego can surrender to that and understand that in the natural cycle of life, we have to learn to surrender to the fact that eventually we may lose people that we love. That's a hard thing to go through. But the best advice that I got, and I wanted to talk about this because I've actually been having dreams. His name was Gilbert, and I just had these dreams about him, and we were so close. And, it's like, I went to the counselor, and the best advice, and I like what the book says about it. And when I read it, because I'm going to read this book so you guys can really hear what it has to say about the dark emotions, was it said, let people go through the process of grief because it is one of the most powerful things that we can go through. And if we don't allow ourselves to go through it, we sort of stop the process from happening we can end up worse off. And it happens in society only because I think some people don't want to face the fact that this is a reality of life. So when you're going through your grief, they don't know how to handle it. People don't know what to say to you. If someone passes on in your life, most people don't even know how to approach it. They're just kind of like, "Ooh, what do I say?" Or they're like, "Please don't cry. You're da 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 da." And it's like, no. Give me permission to feel the way I feel. Give me permission to be sad. And that was the best advice I got. I went to a counselor and he's like, "Look, here's the best advice I can give you." And this guy if I could see him again, I don't even know where he went, but he was a genius in my mind. Because what he told me is what the book is saying. But I don't know that every counselor says this to their people. It's not a matter of getting over it. We never get over it. You're never going to get over the loss of someone you love. No. Things get easier. We learn how to get through the process, and life does go on eventually. But to go through the entire process of accepting the full experience of what grief is. He said, if someone tells you not to cry, if someone tells you it's okay, don't worry about that. Just, you look so pretty when you don't have tears. And, he said, look at them and tell them, look, you may be uncomfortable with me crying, but that's what I need. And if you can't be around me, that's okay. I understand. But I need to cry. I need to feel these things. Most people just want to help you feel better. So they're trying to pull you away from that feeling because of themselves, not because of you. And that's what he said. He said it's because of them, because they're uncomfortable. They want to feel comfortable. But then they feel uncomfortable because they're like, shit, this could happen to me. And I don't want to face it right now. And I don't want to believe that right now. And that's okay. They don't have to. But it says, okay, I need you to sort of be over here so that I can go through what I need to over here. That was the best advice I ever got. So if you are going through grieving or loss, or you've been through loss and you're going through something right now, even a loss of a job, a loss of anything, right? Because death doesn't just happen in the physical. It also happens in the material. Not just with human beings, but with other things in our life, right? So if you're going through some kind of a loss in your life, allow yourself to go through the entire process. It's okay to feel what you feel. If you're numb, you're numb. If you're crying, you're crying. Like some people are like, well, why are they reacting this way? Shouldn't they be sad? Shouldn't they be crying? Shouldn't they? You don't know. Our body goes into shock. It's almost like, imagine you get into this bad accident and you're in shock. You just don't even know you're shocked. You don't know what to do. You've never experienced something like this. So your body doesn't even know what to do. You don't even have the cues to move yourself in a direction that makes sense. And that's okay. I think we're made wrong if we don't fit into this cookie cutter way of showing our emotions, right? It's like, oh, well, you went through a great loss and you're not crying. Something must be wrong with you. Really? Just because you think that that's the process I should go through doesn't necessarily mean that's the process I'm going through. Could be that I totally numbed out. Could be that I totally don't even know what to feel because I don't even know what I'm experiencing in my body at this point. Could be that I don't even know, there's this blank spot in my mind. You don't know. So for me, if I see somebody that's going through some great loss or grief, I go up to them and I say, are you okay? Is there anything I could do to support? I understand. I've been through this. If there's ever anything, let me know. It's that simple, right? But it's very uncomfortable for some people to go through that, to be able to communicate that. Mostly we want to fix it. And I've told people before, it doesn't fix. I know that. This is never going to go away, but allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. You're always going to be sad. right? When you think about the situation, it's not like it just washes away and that's it. It's final. No, this is something that sort of happens and it's permanent. And when we lose somebody we love, it is a permanent thing. It's permanent. You can't take it back. That's a lot of the reason why I tell people spend time with the people you love. Tell people you love them. Forgive. You don't hold grudges. Why? Well, for yourself, for one, and for you, and because you just don't know. Life is so fragile. We think, it's funny because we go on about life like it's not fragile at times. We're just like, yeah, this is day to day to day to day, but it is. And then when there's a great loss of somebody, we start to go, oh, shoot. We start to wake up and say, wow, or we think, oh, that's never going to happen to me. And then boom, when it does, we're like, oh my God, this is real. This really happens. And I'd imagine that everybody on here has been through a loss, right? There was I think it's a parable where this lady wants her son to come back. And I don't know if it's in the Bible. I can't remember. I was reading it in the book. If it's in the Bible, please remind me, you guys, okay? Speak out against domestic violence. Oh, nice. Yes, speak out against domestic violence. We don't like domestic violence. I was raised in a domestic violence house. So I just wanted to say that real quick. In the book, she talks about this lady who is like, I want my son back. I'm grieving so much. I can't handle it. Give me back my son. And I think it might have been a healer, might have been God. I can't remember the exact story. Anyway, it says, go to me also in 2 abusive marriages. Oh, well, my heart goes out to you. I hope you're in a healthy relationship with yourself at this point, or in a healthy relationship with another individual. They say, go to each house, knock on each door, okay? And give me a mustard seed from everybody who has never felt loss in their life or never been through loss. And so the lady, the mother, goes door to door to door, comes back with no mustard seed. But in her journey, realizing that everybody's has gone through this. Everybody has gone through some loss in their life. And that's the big picture. I mean, there's these shared things that we have in humanity as humans, right? There's these shared emotional states that we go through. And for some reason, we've been made wrong to go through them. And it's like we would point, and especially in the West, we'll point fingers of like, oh, that family's not happy. They're this and that and the other. Well, every family has their drama. I can guarantee we can apply the mustard seed story to every family, and you're not going to come back with the mustard seed. Tell me that a family's perfect. It's not. We're thrown into a goulash pool of individual personalities. Not everybody gets along. Just because they're family doesn't mean that we get along. We all have our own unique way of seeing the world. And sometimes personalities clash. I mean, it's part of life. There may be a few individuals that you don't have a disagreement with in your life. That might happen. I can say it could happen. It's possible. I mean, there's been people that I don't know if I've said, yeah, there's been people that I've had pretty good rapport with. We've had our disagreements too. But I don't know that you could ever say that you're 100%. So even with family, like these emotional states are what they call the dark emotions, are the uncomfortable. They say they're dark and probably say they're dark because they're uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want to go through them. We try to avoid them. We numb ourselves out with alcohol or drugs or addictions to different things, right? Maybe casinos or, whatever it is that we do. We numb ourselves out to these emotional states of being, and they're the greatest, most powerful emotions that we can utilize. They drive motivation. They drive us into a higher potential. They help us grow. They stretch us to the point that we can grow into this new thing. It's almost like shedding your old skin, like a snake. Shed your old skin, come into new skin. Shed your old skin, come into new skin. That's what they help us do. They facilitate that. They facilitate that uncomfortable shedding of the skin. And I know I talked about pain the other day. Why does it have to be painful? I think if there was no pain, we wouldn't want to survive. We wouldn't have that survival in us. Pain tells us live. Believe it or not, pain tells us to live. Well, how does it say that? Well, when you're in pain in your body, you're like, please, I want to live, right? Mostly. I mean, it could get to the point where you surrender and say, take me away. I can't handle this. Either but we run away. We want to run away from the pain. But the pain is there as an indication that perhaps we're dying. It feels like death, right? It feels like death, even mentally. Sometimes mental pain can make us feel like we're dying inside. So we have these mental deaths and rebirths. We have physical deaths, right? And then we have birth of new life. But in the death, in the grieving process, allowing ourselves to fully experience what it's like lost without making it wrong, without people making it wrong for us, because that's what happens typically, because people don't know how to handle it. It's not their fault. We've never been taught. I mean, at least in, I don't know what society there, I'm sure there's a society that does like rites of passage, and you have these indigenous cultures and, that probably live out and they have rites of passage. But with us, our rites of passage are a little bit different. And we're told, oh, don't cry. It's okay. Get over it. And people are left to their grief on their own. And some people don't even know how to approach it, because we've never been taught how to go through rites of passage. It's like, how do we go through, I think back in the day, like even in Egypt and stuff, them bombing, and they took out this stuff and they did all this stuff. And who knows, they did all these rituals around it, right? There's even cultures where they let people in the village, if someone dies, they give them a month to grieve, and then they go and they give them food and they spend time with them and they're with them. And that's what's really needed. Sometimes there's no words that need to be said. Sometimes it's just sit there with a person so that they don't feel like they're alone, so that they feel like they have a support there. There's nothing that needs to be fixed when someone loses somebody. There's nothing that needs to be fixed in grief. It's just allowing ourselves to go through the process of grief, to fully embody it, to feel it. And I'm glad you're in both. I think you're still here. Speak out. I'm glad you have a healthy relationship with somebody and yourself. That's awesome. Kudos to you. And I'm sure in your process, I'm talking about grief and loss, right? Just losing an individual, healing through dark emotions. I think it's like the power of alchemy or something like that. I can't remember the title of the book completely. My brain's a little foggy, even though I did Kundalini practice this morning. I'm kind of like, ooh, I think I have some more obstruction up here in the brain. I need to get out. So, hello, the Huckleberry Podcast. Good morning. But I'm sure that in yours, if you're still on here, speak out, is like learning to go through grief, learning to accept those emotions. We can't get past them until we accept them, surrender to them. They'll just stay there. What you resist, persist. If you resist a feeling, an emotion, if you resist the full embodiment of feeling something, it'll stay there until you allow yourself to fully alchemize, right, the experience. That's why I call myself a spiritual alchemist. We'll say, well, what is your religion, or what do you do? I'm an alchemist. That's what I tell people. Well, what does that mean? It means that I allow myself to experience God in motion. I allow myself to look at the world as though everything were God. And any experience that comes from the outside to the internal, if I'm experiencing something from the external, right, and it's giving me this internal response, then I get to deal with that. The dealing or the handling of the emotion internally is the alchemy part. We don't deny anything. We don't throw anything out. We don't say that, oh, I'm going to get rid of it, right? I had a friend the other day, well, how do I get rid of it? I said, you don't. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but you don't get rid of it. You could pretend to. You could try to put it under the rug, and then you have a pile of poop that piles up, and the poop starts to seep out the side, and it starts to smell real bad. So you can't. It's part of the experience. But when you learn to allow yourself to go through the entire emotional response, when you can go through all of it, thank you for the hearts. I don't know who's on here on Facebook, so good morning. It's not showing me. Say good morning so I know who's on here. Sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. But if you allow yourself to go through the entire emotional response from the beginning to the end, fully, you have done what we call spiritual alchemy. You've allowed yourself to go through the process and come out of the other end of it. And at the other end is where your jewels lie. It's like digging. Oh, it's poetic. Hey, poetic. So it's like digging into a gold mine. So when you're digging into the gold mine, right? The jewels are even if you're digging for mining for jewels, whatever it is, right? That is what you're mining. You're mining those jewels, and those jewels come from you allowing yourself to go through the entire process of the dark emotion or the uncomfortable emotion. Fear, disgust, anger, shame. Shame's a big one. That's a huge one. I didn't realize how big shame was. Shame is a huge, huge thing. That's what keeps us from actually wanting to express these things. There's an embarrassment there. Some people will hide their tears even when they're going through grief. Why? To make other people comfortable. They're afraid they're going to make them uncomfortable. But you just lost somebody. So for me, I'll be like this. Deal with it. If you don't like it, go. And people like, oh, okay. I don't say it that mean, that harshly. But it's like, if you can't handle it, it's okay. I get it. You don't have to, right? You don't have to. It's okay. Yes, unpack your past traumas is so important to healing. Yeah. And not staying there, right? So Gilbert passed away probably, oh God, I don't even want to say because y'all know how old I am. No, I'll tell you how old I am. I don't care. I don't care about age because I still feel like a child. But God, it must be nearly 20 years. So we'll say about 18 years, 17, something like that years ago, he passed away. And yet I still feel the hurt and pain come up and surface again. It has caused a lot of different things in my life that I'm not even aware of, that I'm still understanding. There's patterns that were set in motion that I don't even understand in terms of relationship, right? So I haven't been in a committed relationship like I was with Gilbert since Gilbert, because I don't know maybe how, or because, so there's still things that are there. I've go through the process. I've allowed myself to go through the process fully, and still there's something there. That's how much that grief in my life had an impact on me. So that's what I'm telling you. Grief is huge. Am I stuck there? No, I've accomplished so much. I've accomplished so much in results. I said, well, what can I do with this energy? I've gone through it. It's here. Well, let me do this. Let me do that. And I've used all of those experiences to create something beautiful and give back to humanity in some way. Even if it is for 3-4 people of my life, it doesn't matter to me, but at least I'm able to give back somehow and tell people, look, you're not alone. You are not alone. It's okay. I was just thinking of Michael Jackson. You are not alone. I am here with you. Though you're far apart, you're always in my heart. Da, 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 da. Okay. Sorry for the song, but but there you go. You're not alone. I'm here. And I know there's other people who are here. And I think right now in society, we are all coming together to unite, to hold hands, to say, I got you, brothers and sisters. We're in this together, not apart. So I'm going to end this way. If you've lost somebody, thank you. I appreciate you. Speak out against domestic violence with Gina. I like your little logo too. It's pretty. The colors are pretty. That, if you have gone through that, if you've gone through some grief, some loss, or if you've lost somebody you love, there seems to be a lot of loss this year. I'm not saying it's just, I think it's just more magnified because of what's going on, that you allow yourself to go through it, that you're not alone, that it is okay, whatever you're experiencing it. And if people don't like the way that you're experiencing it, tell them, I'm sorry, I love you, but this is what I need to go through. And if it's uncomfortable for you, it's okay. You know what I mean? In other words, speak your truth. Allow yourself to go through the process without making yourself wrong for it. And I'm here for you if you need support with that. Okay, so pretty heavy topic, but I want to read the book. So I think I'm going to start as soon as this semester's over. I have 2 more weeks of my first semester in my master's program. I got through my first semester, thank God. Oof, lots of reading. Ooh, my brain is probably fried right now. That's how I feel. You think I'd have more brain power? No, but lots of reading, lots of writing. Maybe I'll read some of the stuff I wrote about my own personal life, which I don't mind sharing with you guys. But there you go. It's like first semester, getting through these emotional states. And really, in that book, there's a lot of support to help people get through the dark times, because that's kind of what's going on. We're going through this dark night of the soul cosmically as a family. And it's nice to know that we have individuals who can support us through the process, and that we're in it together, and we don't have to be made wrong about it, and that we can love ourselves, and we could just go through it and be all good. Okay. And hold each other's hands and sing kumbaya, because that's what I would do. Okay. So there you go. Anywho, I love you guys. I will definitely be seeing you guys tomorrow. So have a magical, miraculous, magnificent, marvelous, magnetic Monday. And I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, salud. Thank you, speaking out against domestic violence, for Gina, I guess, for chiming in. I love when people chime in. It makes it a fruitful conversation. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great day, and bye-bye.